But the food was good. I had the full Australian breakfast. Whew, man. Anyways, let's move on. So the next one is peko peko. Man, this is perfect. So we're talking about food and being hungry. I'm
Yeah.
hungry now.
Excuse me, Masen.
Welcome to another episode of the Excuse Me Masen podcast. I am your host, and joining me today is Devin. Once again, welcome back, man. Long time no
Thank
see.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about onomatopoeia in Japan. And the reason why I wanted to cover this topic today is because when I came to Japan, I kind of already had this image in my mind of what the Japanese language sounds like. I took Japanese courses for 3 years in high school and then another year and a half in college. So, like I knew a bunch of kanji. So, yeah, I already had this image in my mind, preconceived notions, if you will. And
Mhm.
when I came to Japan and I started having conversations with people who wouldn't hold back, like they'll just go brah in Japanese.
Oh, yeah.
I started to notice like a lot of repeating words. And I was like, what is going on here? Because it's like totally different from what I learned, what I would pick up from like anime or from dramas or whatever I would see on TV. And I decided to dig into it and try to figure out what it was so that it wouldn't be so shocking anymore. Like every time a new one would pop up. And apparently that's Japanese onomatopoeia. Of course,
Yeah.
we have it in the English language. But for
Yeah.
people who just got to Japan or people who don't really know much about Japanese, they use onomatopoeia way more than we do in English.
Yeah.
It's like in America, for example, we use a lot of metaphors, right? And in Japan, they don't do that very often. They do use them, but we use them a lot in the US.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like the reverse.
I mean, I just realized, I guess so. I'm not sure. Like what you said just now sounds interesting to me, that we use more like metaphors and analogies or stuff like that when we're talking, and probably just as much as the Japanese use onomatopoeia when they're talking.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. Another thing that we use a lot is references to like
Yeah.
movies. So like
Yeah.
if a Japanese person was to try to learn English and they were to have a conversation with people not holding back, especially in the United
Yeah.
States, I can't speak for British people because we're not British, but they would definitely get lost because of the references. I mean,
Yeah.
you and I did an episode about comedy the other day, and one thing that I remember about, for example, Dave Chappelle is like the top comedians use references all the time to like news and movies and current events, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting back to what we were talking about, onomatopoeia. I have a list today of 40 of the most common ones. Some of them, there are a few of them I've actually never heard of before, but I wanted to add them because I found them. And the ones that we do know about, we can get into like the stories that we have of like how we learn them or if we use them and how we use them, for example.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm still getting used to using them in Japanese, but I find them, I guess, I mean, it's the same thing like when you said us in the US in English using references and analogies and stuff. It's way easier to communicate some feeling or some idea or something, some abstract thing, just
Yeah.
using that thing. So it's like, yeah, I get it. It's useful but just the way it sounds to me is just kind of, I don't know, I get annoyed when I hear it. I think it would be the same thing in English. Like if we said woof, 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 woof all the time or something like that, I'd be annoyed. But
I can imagine rappers doing that a lot.
like Ja Rule or DMX. Woof,
Yeah.
woof. But yeah, no, they're really like, once you get used to them, they're really useful. So yeah, interesting thing to talk about, I think.
Skirt. Who's that guy that does that?
Skeet. Yeah,
Who's that rapper that does that?
Kendrick says that a lot. It's skirt,
Really?
skirt. He says one of his songs, yeah, skirt.
Oh, okay. Anyways, let's get into the list.
Man, we do have a lot of onomatopoeia in English too, man. If you just list them out, it gets ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Oh,
sorry.
that's one thing that I wanted to add actually. So, what I tried to do with the onomatopoeia that we're going to cover today is find an English equivalent onomatopoeia or a word that is derived from onomatopoeia that kind of
Yeah.
matches the one that we're going to cover. So, we're going to go over the word itself, the equivalent, and then we'll explain it and probably give our insight or any story that we have if we have one. If not, that's fine. So the first one that we have today is Waku Waku,
Mhm.
which means, for our listeners, which means excited or thrilled. And the English equivalent that I have, the closest equivalent I could find is buzzing with energy. So that's the key part, is the with energy part. So buzzing with energy.
Yeah.
For example, like I'm buzzing with excitement for tomorrow's trip. So that's like a perfect situation that you would use the word waku waku
Yeah.
in Japanese. So if you hear somebody say waku waku, oh yeah, another thing that I wanted to mention is this episode, because it's focused on language, it will probably appeal better to people who have somewhat of an understanding of the Japanese language. So if you're like completely fresh and you don't know anything about Japanese, you might get lost in this episode, but hopefully we have some funny things to say. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So waku waku. What's your experience with this word?
It's everything. Like, I mean, I can't remember anything specific, but yeah, for real, anytime something's like you're excited for something, oh, waku waku shitemasu ne, or like you're waku waku shiteru janai, like you must be excited or something like that. It's really easy. Just anytime you're excited for something, you can say that word.
Yeah, pretty
I've
much.
used it. I use it a lot.
Yeah, I've used it before. Like I learned it probably from anime. Another thing that I noticed about onomatopoeia is a lot of times if an adult is with kids, they'll use it with kids to kind of explain stuff to them because it makes it easier for them to understand.
Yeah, that's if I had a if I had a like a list of Japanese onomatopoeia that I use, that would be in the top of that list. One of the top ones in that list.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the top ones. So the next one that we have is Doki Doki. So this one meaning that your heart is pumping. So the English equivalent would be thump thump, or like the thumping noise of your heart.
Yeah, for me, all the stuff that's connected to this word, which I also use a lot, and it's easy to understand. All the imagery that's connected to this word for me is like when it's a romantic scenario between anybody, man and a woman, man and a man, woman and a woman, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
When you're dating.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever your preference is. If you're nervous, excited, when your heart's beating. I think someone even said that to me and my wife when we were telling them how we first met. You fall in love with, or you have a romantic relationship with, you have that doki doki feeling where like, the excitement.
So you're talking about like butterflies.
Kind of, yeah. I think that's
butterflies in your stomach. Okay. Yeah, that's definitely it too.
Is there other situations? Because I can't even think of other ones where you would use that.
Doki doki? Yeah, because doki doki refers to like nervousness in general. Doki doki, nervousness and excitement. So like, in your case, you're referring...
before giving a speech.
Yeah.
Like before getting on stage, yeah.
So you're talking about the excitement that you have like in a romantic situation. And then you can also use it like you said, before an interview or a speech or something. Yeah.
Yeah, most of it is for like romantic situations for me in my head.
Yeah. The third one we have is pera pera.
Yeah.
And this one, of course, means can speak fluently. And the closest word, or even like a onomatopoeia derived word that I could find, is blabber. But the problem here is blabber has a connotation that's slightly negative, right? Meaning like talking too much. But you can use it in a positive situation. For example, if you say like, she blabbers in English fluently, like it's almost like you're playfully teasing. So yeah, the word pera pera actually is not in any way negative. The connotation for pera pera is not negative. Blabber is slightly negative.
This one for me is one of the first ones I ever learned. So yeah, this one goes way back for me. I hope I'm more pera now.
I'm pretty sure you are. Yeah, like my experience with pera is when I used to work for Cartier, we would get Japanese customers all the time. And then they trained us to have these phrases ready when the Japanese customers come in. And then sometimes the customers would get excited about the product based on what I say. And they would start talking like really hardcore. And I couldn't follow what they're saying. So I would have to apologize and say in Japanese, like, I'm sorry, my Japanese is not pera in Japanese.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, no, you don't need to speak pera and you don't have to use keigo, which means like formal speech. So yeah, that was my experience with that word.
Nice. Yeah. I would use that too, like mada pera janai desu. Like I'm not fluent yet.
Yeah.
But what I use instead of that now, I say mada jozu janai desu. I don't know what the difference is.
I'm not
the nuances
good.
may be different. Yeah. I'm not good.
Yeah. The whole thing I notice about Japanese is like, no matter how good I get, whenever I listen to like two Japanese people talk to each other, especially young men, when I hear them talk to each other and they're talking like at their normal pace, I'm just like, wow, so many new words popping up. And if I can follow, like once they get deep in their conversation, I get lost.
That's probably where all their references and analogies and stuff come in.
Yeah, probably, right? Yeah, so the next one that we have is goro, meaning lying around lazily or like a rumbling sound. So the English equivalent would be rumble. So an example would be like thunder, or like if you have an empty stomach, that would be goro.
Oh, hold on. Sorry. I got to jump in and say this is different from my understanding of goro.
Okay, so what's your understanding?
Goro means to be lazy and just lie around doing nothing. Have you heard that? I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard it before. I've heard both situations used. So this is one of those ones that has two different meanings. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Got it. I'll use that because we had a lot of thunder recently. But goro for me, I use a lot. That's definitely on my top 10. Not I use, like my wife uses it. It's like, what do you want to do today? I want to goro.
Goro stay.
Do nothing.
Yeah.
Just lie down.
That's the best.
This brings to mind also one thing I want to bring up. This is related to another onomatopoeia. I don't know if you have it on your list, but I want to mention it. It's pura.
No, I don't know that one. What's that?
Oh man, this is something me and my wife use a lot because it just means walk around. Pura shitai. Like we go to like somewhere. It's like, oh, what do you want to do? I want to pura. Just walk around, check things out. Wander, basically.
Yeah.
Because we like doing that whenever we're in a place. Just walk around, check out whatever, drink coffee. And we use this a lot. Pura. Sounds good. One. Let's do it.
Pura shio.
I say that a lot.
Okay. So the next one that we have is gyu, meaning jam-packed. Or the English equivalent, crammed. So the train is crammed would be the perfect situation to use that. Have you ever used that one before?
No, but I've heard it. This would be on the bottom. I don't really use this that much. Thankfully, man, just hearing that word, I already know what that means, and it brings to mind all of these negative feelings of like, God, I hate being in this. Like, I can't stand. Your heart goes doki when you're in a gyu situation. You really feel stressed out. You want to get the out of this train, and you're like, how much longer? How many more stops until this gyu ends? And like, yeah, man. Yeah.
I eventually got used to it because what I notice is people, they don't like walk directly into you on the train. They face their back to you and then they back into you.
Yeah.
So when people do it that way, I'm like, yeah, that's not that bad. But like every once in a while when it's packed, I do get really mad. Like this one time I was on the train and it was probably like, it was one of those nights where it's really busy at like 10:30 p.m. And I was standing by the door and I was like, man, I need to get in. I don't want to get out because there's so many people trying to get out and I'm worried that the door might close before I get back in. So when the door opened, I tried to like walk deeper into the train car, and people
You
were
going
just
against
like,
the flow?
exactly. It's like being in a rushing river, and it's just pushing you back really hardcore.
I know
And
this. I know
each time
this.
somebody bumped my shoulder, like I wanted to, like yeah.
God.
So it
And
got so
everybody
bad.
feels that way.
Yeah, it got so bad to
Oh,
the point where
God.
like I was pushed out of the train, and I was like pushing people's backs, almost like I'm
Oh my
swimming in
God.
water. I was
Oh
pushing
my
their
God.
backs so that I could get my momentum back, so that I could walk back into the train car.
Anybody who's been living here for a long time knows this feeling, and it's the worst. It's the worst.
Yeah.
That feeling when it's like when you're coming up onto a station where you know it's going to start to get packed even before the doors open. When the train's slowing down and you start seeing how many people are lined up, that's when the Doki Doki starts, and you're like, oh.
Here we go. Yeah, so let's go to a positive one. The next one is Nico Nico.
Okay.
Meaning, smiling. So like the equivalent to Nico Nico would be like a grin. Yeah, that's not really onomatopoeia, but I think it's close enough to capture the vibe.
Well, I've never. Okay, so the thing I know is like Nico Nico is the name of a brand of like a media platform called the Nico Nico Doga, like some website.
I've heard of that before, yeah.
I guess it means grinning, like whatever. But this one I've never used. I don't really use it that much. I
Nico
don't
Nico.
really know what it means actually.
Oh, I hear this one a lot from my father-in-law, because when my kids were babies, when a really small baby smiles, it's unintentional. And when they do, it's like the cutest thing you've ever seen. So then every time my father-in-law would be around our kids and they would smile, he'd be like, "Oh, Nico, he only say it once.
What is he? Oh, really? So he doesn't do Nico Nico?
He doesn't say Nico Nico. He turns it into a verb and says Nico toshiteru. But my mother-in-law does say Nico Nico. Yeah, so the next one we have is Kira Kira. I hear this one in songs a lot. And I've even heard this one on freaking South Park. And then even the movie Sing. In the movie Sing, there's this group of red pandas that are doing like a J-pop style, and they only speak Japanese. And they're like Kira Kira in the movie. Yeah, I totally forgot to explain what it means. So Kira Kira means sparkling or glittering, and the equivalent word in English would be twinkle. Mm-hmm. So Kira Kira, like twinkle of a star. Because my wife is a dance teacher, and she likes to buy. Sometimes she has to buy costumes that are really like glittery, and she'll use Kira Kira a lot.
Yeah, perfect situation for that.
Yeah. So the next one we have is za za, talking about the sound of rain. The equivalent that I found was pitter patter, like the pitter patter of light rain.
Yeah.
Tack, 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 tack.
That's perfect. That image comes through perfectly.
I actually learned this one in high school. Ame ga zaza furimasu. And I've never used it ever. I've heard people use it before, but I've never used it. What about you?
Yeah. No, I've never used this. I didn't even hear about it. I've never heard of it until you said it just now.
This might actually be one of the ones that you learn in your textbook, but people don't actually use. But from my research, it was like really popular, and I already knew it. So I decided to add it to the list. So let's get to the next one then.
Zaza.
The next one is bata bata.
Yes.
Talking about the sound of feet running or flapping.
I feel bad. All the ones that I know and use a lot are all the negative kind of like stressful ones.
Yeah, but the equivalent of this one is actually pitter patter also. But this is a different kind of pitter patter. This one is not the pitter patter of light rain. This is the pitter patter of like feet running. So just imagine like kids in a wooden house and they're like chasing each other. Like, and then I know this one, my experience with this one is actually my wife gets mad at my kids a lot because they bata bata suru on the wooden floor so that the people downstairs might get angry. So she'll tell them like, don't bata bata. Of course, in Japanese.
For me, bata bata means you are stressfully like out of control running around. So for me, like every time there's like a work situation or when you're doing an event or something like that and just things are a mess, it's just out of control, you're just reacting, doing whatever. Or if you're at home or something and you're like, trying to get the kids ready or you're trying to get some stuff ready, but you have to go, you're late. it's just bata 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 bata. It's like I'm gonna swear again, but it's like stressful and just chaos and sort of like
Yeah.
out of control.
So that's been your experience with the word.
Like it's the opposite of calm, collected, smooth.
Yeah. So the next one we have on the list is gura gura, meaning wobbling or shaking. So yeah, the equivalent would be wobble. I guess you could imagine like a building wobbling during an earthquake, or maybe even if you're touching a doorknob and let's say the doorknob is kind of like it has a lot of give when you try to
Yeah.
turn it. So that would be like the gura gura of the door.
But it does remind me of one that I wanted to bring up. It sounds like guru guru. Have you heard of guru guru?
I have heard that. Guru guru
Yeah.
mawaru.
Yeah. So okay. So for me, my experience. So I used to work. My old job was working with refrigeration systems, especially big ones at supermarkets where they have like a rack of like compressors, and then they have to circulate the refrigerant or the water through the store, like a Costco, through the showcases and stuff. So I remember
Okay.
one time talking to a Japanese engineer. He was trying to explain the flow of the refrigerant through the system, and he would say, "Guru guru 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 guru," and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that's funny."
Okay.
Even some professional like engineer is like using a onomatopoeia to explain stuff. Like, all right,
Okay. So from your experience, what would be the best word to the best English version of that word?
yeah, circulates. I think circulating or
Circulate.
circulate. I guess in those situations, like guru 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 guru, like when you're if you have like plumbing or something and you say, oh yeah, the water, guru 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 goes around and
Yeah.
around or something like that.
Yeah. From my experience, guru guru is actually more like twirl because I have kids and they say like guru guru
Wow.
mawate, like can you spin around? Can you twirl
Oh,
around?
wow. Huh, that's really interesting. Yeah, I've never heard it used like that.
It's actually my wife
Yeah.
says it when she's teaching dance. Yeah. So let's move on to the next one. Next one we have is pika pika, meaning shiny or sparkling clean.
Yeah.
The floor was polished to a sparkle. That would be a perfect situation to use pika pika.
Yeah.
And then even Pikachu says it like pika pika.
I like when our apartment is sparkling clean. And my wife says like clean the bathroom or clean the showers or something. And it just makes me think of like, yeah, when you clean it, you got to make sure it's pika pika. Make sure it's sparkling. It's got that ding.
Yeah.
Also makes me think of Gordon Ramsay and how clean he wants kitchens to be.
Okay.
I don't know why.
All right. So the next one we have is gata gata, meaning rattling or clattering sound. And then, like for
Yeah.
example, the old car is rattling. Yeah, I've heard it used like whenever, let's say, if I'm in a situation where the air conditioner is making a weird noise.
Yeah, mine does
Then
that.
I would hear like either my father-in-law or somebody just be like, "What is that gata gata sound?" in Japanese.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, this next one I've actually never heard before, but apparently it's used a lot is uto uto. So uto uto, meaning
Wow.
dozing off, or the English equivalent would be like snooze. Like a light sleep or like a drowsiness would be uto uto. So he's snoozing on the sofa, like uto uto shiteru on the sofa. It's just like,
Huh.
yeah. Just imagine like an old dude. This is what I'm
Yeah.
assuming. Okay, imagine like an old dude who just like can't resist a nap in the afternoon,
Yeah.
like on a chair or something like that.
How about like a security guard in a security booth with his legs up on the table?
Yeah. All right. So the next one that we have is fua fua. This
Yep.
one I've heard so many times,
Oh
man.
my God. I don't know who hasn't heard this probably.
Yeah, meaning fluffy. So fluffy
Yeah.
is the equivalent word. I mean, I've used it at work. I've used it with kids. I've used it in like anytime something has like some form of fluff, it's fua fua
Mhm.
shiteru.
Number one thing, pancakes.
Yeah. You get that from those really thick ones that are always on like Instagram and stuff?
Yeah, those ones, especially like, people love to go to those pancake places, man. Japan loves pancakes. Especially
Dude, have you tried those?
full
The
ones.
really thick, soft ones?
No, I don't think so. Not yet. Are they good?
Okay. Yeah, I've tried. Okay, so I haven't tried those like crazy thick ones because I heard like those are overrated. But I have
Mhm.
tried. There's this Australian restaurant in Odaiba. I forgot the name of it. I think it's called Bill's Restaurant, and
I
they
think I've
have
heard of.
pancakes.
Oh, no! I've heard of this. I've heard of this. This is a famous chain actually. That we went to Bill's in Yokohama somewhere in Minato, I think.
Yeah.
But we didn't try their pancakes. I think.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty expensive, but my wife said that their pancakes are like renowned for Japanese people.
Yeah.
So we tried it, and I was like, "Wow, these are pretty good." We got the banana ones.
Really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So those were fua, and the orange juice was like $9. And I was like, Jesus Christ. But the food was good. I had the full Australian breakfast. Whew, man. Anyways, let's move on. So the next one is peko peko. Man, this is perfect. So we're talking about food and being hungry. I'm
Yeah.
hungry now. And peko means
Yeah.
you're hungry. So it's like
Yeah.
the equivalent of peko is growl. So the growling of your stomach. Hara peko. I heard that one from Ampan Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're around a Japanese person and your stomach gurgles, they're gonna say, "Oh, peko." Then like you must be hungry. Your stomach's gurgling.
Yeah. All right. So the next one we have is gocha, meaning messy or disorganized. And the English equivalent in this situation would be clutter. For example, like the room is full of clutter. I learned this one when I was teaching because my student was trying to explain to me that their room wasn't dirty, but it was messy. So like everything, like because we were having a conversation. I was like, "So are you like a type of person who's neat?" And they were like,
Mhm.
"Neat? What does that mean?" Because Japanese, they have their own meaning for the word neat, and
Mhm.
I can't recall it right now at the top of my head, but it doesn't mean what it actually means.
Oh yeah. No. Neat is the abbreviation for something, which means you don't have a job.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
way
yeah,
off
yeah.
then. It's like mansion
Yeah, yeah,
level
yeah.
off. So
Yeah.
I asked my student, "Are you neat?" And then she's like,
Are
"What?
you out of work?
Are you unemployed?"
Yeah.
But it was a kid, so the kid didn't understand what I was saying.
Yeah.
So I explained, like, "Do you like your room like where everything is where it's supposed to be, or is everything like everywhere?" And then they were like, then they said like, "Hey, gocha gocha steru." Just imagine like a teenage boy's room,
Yeah.
like typically. The next one we have is peta, meaning a padding sound. So we went over the word bata, which means like the pitter patter, right? Of like
Yep.
kids running around. This one is peta, meaning the padding sound, like a pat noise. And then that one is referring to like, for example, like a baby walking. Like it's not like the speed is not as fast, like pat. Does that make sense?
I guess.
Yeah, so just think
Bata
of
bata.
like bata, but not as fast. And that's peta.
Okay. So they would only use it, or I mean, I don't know. Have you used it a lot or heard it a lot?
I haven't used it, but I have heard it used when my babies were walking.
That must be why I haven't heard it a lot.
Yeah, so like my father-in-law or my mother-in-law would be like, your daughter's peta is very cute in Japanese, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, so the next one we have is uki. So I've heard this one. I've heard kids use this one a lot. And it means like cheerful and buoyant. And the equivalent word I could find is bubbly. She's feeling bubbly. That's the example that I have. Like cheerful or in a buoyant mood.
Mood. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like a personality type.
Uki.
Yeah, and every time I hear kids use it, like they're like dancing around. Just imagine like Barbie or something like that. Like that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
I didn't watch the movie, so I don't know if she is that way in that movie, but I'm talking about like the concept of Barbie when we were kids.
Yeah. Bubbly.
Okay. So the next one we have is chiku, meaning prickly or like a tingling sensation. So like you know when you're like your hand or your leg falls asleep, and then when it starts to slowly wake up, you have that pins and needles. So that would be like a chiku situation. And
that's kind of like a perfect illustration of what English is and what Japanese is.
Yeah.
Wherever we use some weird analogy or thing, they use a reference. They have an onomatopeia for probably like pins and needles, chiku chiku.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. So the next one we have is biku biku. So chiku chiku, now it's biku biku.
Now it's getting ridiculous.
Yeah. This one meaning nervous or scared. And the equivalent of this one I
okay.
found is tremble. Like imagine somebody trembling with nervousness. That would be a biku biku situation. So the one
Okay.
that we talked about earlier, what was that word again?
Doki doki.
Doki doki. So that's more of your heart, right? But this one is actually your body trembling.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah,
Okay. So the next one we have is boso boso, meaning speaking softly. The equivalent word I could find about this one is mumble. Trying to pronounce it as perfectly as I can for our Japanese listeners, but mumble.
Mumble.
Yeah.
Mumble.
Which, so
Humble.
you're describing a situation where like somebody's talking in a low, indistinct manner. So like he's mumbling softly would be a boso boso situation. All right. So the next one we have is buru buru, meaning shivering from cold or fear. So tremble is biku biku from being nervous or scared. So like think about an interview, you would tremble. But then if you're talking about buru buru, you would imagine being in a cold situation where you're like really trembling hardcore. Like trembling from nervousness is light, but trembling or shivering, of course, you can imagine your whole body's moving and it's visual. You can actually see it.
Shivering. That's a clear image.
Yeah, and that would be buru buru. So the equivalent of buru buru would be shiver, which kind of reminds me because like when I was watching One Piece long time ago, every time those snail telephones would ring, they would just be like buru 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 buru. And I even put that as my freaking phone ringtone one time. So when somebody calls me,
you can imagine like those like cartoons where the phone headset is going like this, right?
Yeah, that's perfect.
This brings to mind also shivering. So shivering in the cold. So I was thinking, okay, well, we're in summer right now. It's really hot. We would not use that word now, but the word we would use, and the word that I use often, well, more than me, it's the word that my wife uses often is beta beta.
Beta beta.
I think I'm saying it right. I'm not sure if I'm getting it wrong, but have you heard this?
The beta beta that I know means like sticky.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm using it for.
Oh, okay.
So this is what I'm thinking. Like summertime when you're sweaty, and this is my wife's like, I'm trying to like give her a hug or something. She's like, ugh, beta beta.
Yeah, your sweat is like making your skin stick to mine.
Yeah. Like, ugh, I don't want to. Please go take a shower or something like that.
Yeah, man, girls in Japan are so sensitive when it comes to that. Like even my wife says the same thing.
Yeah. Beta beta.
Yeah, like even if I barely feel the sweat, if she touches me and there's like a slight, even so slight, she'll be like, "Are you okay? Are you hot?"
Beta.
I'd be like, I have to take a second to think about it. And I'm like, oh yeah, Japanese people don't sweat all year like we do in Saipan. Because we live in a place that's always summer. So we don't even give a second thought to it. Yeah. So the next one we have is choo-choo. So this one I learned because I've had 3 kids already. And we refer to a kid's pacifier as choo-choo. I don't know if that's the official word, but that's what my wife refers to it as. So I just follow her. But so apparently the choo-choo onomatopoeia refers to the sound of a kiss. And the English equivalent would be smooch. So when kids put on the pacifier, they make a kissing noise while they use it, right?
Yeah.
The next one that we have is gucha gucha. So we talked about gocha gocha referring to a room that is messy. And now gucha gucha is like, I would say, like from my experience, the difference between gocha gocha and gucha gucha is gocha gocha can refer to various things in a room, but gucha gucha usually refers to like one thing that is in a mess. Like if I say like a room that is gocha gocha, I would imagine different things in the room and everything is like scattered. But if I say gucha gucha, like your thoughts, for example, if your thoughts are scattered in your mind, that's one
Mhm.
thing and it's scattered around. That would be gucha gucha.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, some of these, like the difference, like for sometimes I'll learn two different ones and I'll ask my wife, what's the difference between them? And she'll be like, and then you ask a Japanese person, like any Japanese person, I'll be like, and they won't be able to fully explain it. Like it's just like in the moment, you just decide to use that one. So like that's one
Yeah,
thing that
yeah.
we should probably mention is some of these are interchangeable depending on
Yeah.
whether you want to say it or not. Because context is the most important factor. What is going
Yeah.
on? So even if you use the
Yeah.
wrong one, if they know the context, they'll know what you're talking about. So you don't have to worry
Yeah.
so much about getting it correct. But
Yeah.
we have this episode for that purpose.
And especially like whatever's tied to that word the most in your head, you'll probably be getting from other people anyway. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's why context is the most important, because whatever everyone else is saying in this situation is the word you want to use, because you want to send the same image to that
Yeah, right.
person's
You want to
mind.
communicate the way that they do so that you're communicating correctly.
Yeah, and you're both thinking of the same thing, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so the next one we have is kacha kacha. So like the sound of like clicking or clattering objects. Like imagine like typing on your keyboard. That would be like kacha kacha
Yeah.
kacha kacha.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about click clack, that reminds me also of like the word that Japanese people use to describe the sound of trains going over the tracks. What do we say in English? I don't remember. It's clickety
I don't
clack,
know.
right? I think it's clickety clack, clickety clack.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah.
So it's basically click clack, but clickety clack, right? But in Japan, they
Yeah.
call it gatang gatang. It's like, just imagine a train. Gatang gatang, gatang gatang. I think that one sounds better than clickety clack. I guess maybe it
Sounds
depends
like
on the train.
Filipino.
Gatang
Sounds
gatang.
like Filipino. Yeah.
Why? What
Sounds like
word
Tagalog.
is Filipino that sounds like that?
Oh, I don't know. It just sounds like Filipino to me, like a food. Katang katang.
Okay.
I don't know.
Just you saying that reminds me of like what's the comedian's name again? Jim Gaffigan. Every time he says a joke that's remotely racist, like for example, he'll tell a joke about Chinese people, and then as soon as he's done with the joke, he'll say, "I can say that joke because I'm Chinese." And obviously, he's not
Like
Chinese. He's
sarcastically.
like a albino white person, basically. So when you said that, I mean, you're actually Filipino, so it's cool if you say it.
Yeah. Katang katang. Yeah, that sound is every day here in
Yeah.
Tokyo.
Right. And then the kacha kacha also. If you work in an office, just everybody's
Oh, yeah.
keyboard is going kacha kacha. All right. So the next one that we have is kari kari. This has nothing to do with curry. This one means crunchy. So English equivalent is crunch, which is also onomatopoeia. Yeah. This one I hear a lot. Supermarkets, every once in a while, you'll hear like, because they have these little advertisement things that have like a speaker behind it, and then like somebody will be explaining the product the whole time.
Kari.
Yeah. Oh, dude, did you hear the news about those high school kids?
Oh, okay. I've heard this. They were eating super spicy something and they all went to the hospital. Yeah, my wife told me about this.
Yeah, I was reading the article and it said like the bag said, do not eat these chips unless you're over 18 or over. And then these high school kids, probably like 14, 15, they passed it around at school.
Oh my God.
And then like
that's the
30
best way
of
to
them,
get 14-year-olds to, oh my God.
Tell them not to do it and they'll do it.
Yeah.
But like 30 of them ended up in the hospital because of that. So apparently it's so spicy, it will send you to the hospital.
That's even more like, holy, like I want to try it now.
Yeah.
I want to see if I can go to the hospital.
They showed the bag, but it was so low res that I couldn't read the label.
Oh
I guess they did that on purpose so that
Yeah.
they don't get any kind of strikes. Yeah, so let's move on. The next one is koro koro.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
every person who comes to live in Japan will, at one point or not, learn this word because let me start off by what it means. So it means something small that is rolling. So roll is koro koro. But
Oh man.
this name is so common that they've given it, it's designated
Yep.
as the name for
Yep.
lint rollers.
Hmm.
So a lint roller in Japan is known as korokoro.
God. Man, I think this sums up Japan, man. At least sums up Japan's attitude towards cleanliness.
Why?
Because, like, I think, because in the US, you only think of using lint rollers on your shirt or something.
Yeah.
But imagine a country of people where that thing is so popular, where you use it everywhere, basically.
Yeah, you use it on
the
your floor, your clothes,
on the carpet,
your
on the
bed.
sofa, on the bed. Yeah. Like literally everything. And it's like, I guess it's perfect for somebody like me, especially because I am so, I'm forgetting the English words already, but if I see one hair on the ground, I can't focus. I have to go pick it up with my freaking fingers and throw it away.
You're a neat
That's
freak.
why I love, yeah, man, it's crazy level to where like my number one favorite thing of all time in Japan is the korokoro. Because I use it everywhere. And my wife uses it too. And we pick up every freaking hair on the floor, everywhere we see. In the bathroom, every morning, every night. Man, we go through rolls of that, man.
Dude, let me tell you a quick story, okay? Because I think it's going to make you change your mind. When I first came here, instead of buying a vacuum, I just bought like the really strong korokoro. Like it's so strong, it would pick the carpet off the floor.
Yeah.
And I was using that every single day. And you know, like I teach, so there's different kinds of people coming in here every day. And then, and then when I finally decided to buy a vacuum, I got the Dyson.
Yeah.
And then I did a fresh korokoro, and then I vacuumed the floor with the Dyson, and the Dyson was full of dirt, bro. So if you're using your korokoro on the carpet, visually, it looks clean. But if you want actual cleanliness, get a Dyson.
Man. Okay.
Don't just get a vacuum, get a Dyson. Because we had this vacuum from like, I think it was Hitachi or Panasonic or something like that. And then it worked really well for like the first 2 or 3 years. And then its suction power, no matter how much we cleaned it just got weaker and weaker. Like the motor got weaker. Yeah. But the Dyson, because Dyson is so famous, we've had our Dyson for 8 years already.
10 years, 8 years.
And the battery gave out. We bought a new like third-party battery. The filters, we bought third-party filters because they're way cheaper.
Yeah.
The motor head also died and it was discontinued because it's already 8 years ago. We were able to find the third-party brush head that had like a light on it and like it turns in a different way and the brush is much bigger and everything. Like
nice.
Yeah, getting Dyson is like buying an iPhone. It's like, it's so popular that there's all kinds of third-party products you can buy for it.
Yeah, I probably annoy my wife a lot with how many times, this is just me, but how many times I use the korokoro on the carpet.
Yeah.
Like almost every night I do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm feeling bored, I just do it because it makes me feel satisfied.
Yeah, right. Especially when you do it and then there's nothing on it, you're just like, like this. So satisfying.
See, that's everybody must feel that way, man. So that's why those korokoros are so popular.
All right. So the next one we have is kun-kun. If you're from Saipan, kun-kun means something entirely different. But
I already have a dirty feeling and I don't even remember what it means in Saipan.
Yeah. Let's just keep moving. So, kun-kun in Japan means like an animal sniffing sound. So the equivalent would be sniff.
When is this useful?
So like if you're just talking about like, you know, what is the dog doing? Oh, he's sniffing around.
Okay. I was thinking like bears or something.
You could use that too. So I would imagine this, like the perfect situation is when you're talking to children. So if you don't have kids in your life, you might not ever use this, but if you do, you'll probably end up using it a lot. So the word kun-kun means sniff. I don't have any experience with this one. I have heard it, but I have not used it.
I've never even heard of it, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so let's move on then. The next one we have is kusu-kusu, meaning giggling softly. So English equivalent, giggle. And it describes, of course, soft, quiet laughter. And you can say she's giggling softly. That's your example right there. So kusu-kusu, it doesn't sound like kusu to me at all.
Yeah, it doesn't.
That reminds me, like the onomatopoeia for rooster is keko keko. Keko keko. Like that doesn't even sound like it to me. Cock-a-doodle-doo sounds like way better.
Cockle-doodle-doo. And even that one, if you think about it, has like zero relationship. But you just hear it so much as a kid that I guess it does make sense. But
And then like even
cockle-doodle-doo.
frogs, because frogs we say ribbit,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And that
Yeah,
sounds really
yeah.
accurate. I guess it depends on the species of the frog. Ribbit sounds good. But in Japan, it's gero gero.
What is it?
Gero gero.
That's pretty good.
I haven't heard a frog that sounds like that though. To me, they sound like a ribbit. It might be a species. It might be like the species that's most common in Japan probably does sound like gero gero, maybe. I don't know.
Gero.
The next one we have is mecha mecha. I don't even know if that really counts as onomatopoeia, but I hear it used so often. And since onomatopoeia in Japan, usually it's 2 words repeated. Mecha
Yeah.
mecha, of course. Mecha is short for mechakucha, meaning very
Yeah.
or super.
Yeah.
And then mecha
Yeah.
mecha is like the colloquial way of saying super duper, which is also colloquial, right? But
Super duper.
yeah, so like he's super busy. 彼はめちゃめちゃ
Super duper
忙しい.
busy.
So like you would not use that when you're talking to your boss. This one is like, just imagine like young people in their 20s and
Just
younger.
imagine saying it to your boss. That's so funny.
めちゃめちゃおもろいな. Like that, I can imagine your boss would be like, what the hell are you saying to me? Yeah. And if you're foreign, they'll probably give you a pass. Depending on how well you speak Japanese. Because I noticed
It's not a board meeting.
like the better your Japanese is, the more they expect you to follow the rules. The poorer your Japanese is, the more tolerable or tolerant they are of you not following
Mistakes.
the traditions or not even, I guess you could say business traditions, business etiquette. I noticed that they do use onomatopoeia in business situations too. Maybe not like a mecha mecha because that's like more like a slang word than a onomatopoeia. Okay, so the next one we have is moku moku, meaning billowing or billow. So like smoke or steam, that would be moku moku. You have any experience with this one?
Oh, yes. I just thought of one. A few years ago, about 2 years ago now, one of the yakiniku places on the 8th floor of a building that we live nearby was moku moku.
Oh.
Here's what happened. It was the evening, and my windows were open from my apartment, and and I started smelling yakiniku.
Yeah.
It's really bad. But I was like, wow, there must be some festival or something going on outside. And then I started noticing fire trucks and people standing outside, and the smell got stronger and stronger. And I was like, what is going on? So I went outside and I saw about a block or 2 down from our building, the yakiniku place that we've been to once or twice before, but it was out of the windows. All smoke was, and fire was just moku moku. It was billowing out the windows. And I was like, wow, the yakiniku place is on fire.
Yeah. It was like a grease
and
fire
we
or
learned
something?
later on.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we learned later something like with the charcoal or some people handling stuff or whatever.
Oh,
but
okay.
that place shut down completely. Everything was black.
Wow.
And it was pretty bad.
Crazy.
Moku moku.
All right. So let's go to the next one. We have nuru nuru. So this one is commonly, I think even foreigners have heard this one when they're talking about like a nuru nuru massage. So basically like slippery or slimy. So nuru nuru would mean slippery and like a fish, for example, if you try to grab it, it's nuru nuru.
Yep.
Do you have any experience with this, Mr. Devin? Nuru nuru massage?
Not directly. Oh God, I'm trying to think of something. Okay, maybe you can help me, but what is the food that you eat when it's all slimy, like okra or
natto?
What is the word for it?
Neba neba.
Yes,
that's slimy.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, that one you would.
Sorry, it's food again, but
Yeah, nuru nuru would be slippery. Like when you touch it, it slips. Like
yes.
like lubricant or grease. But
Yeah.
neba neba would be slimy. Like when you pick up when you try, like when if
Yes.
you grind. Let's say natto. Like you try to pick up your natto, you have to
Yeah.
like. I don't
Yeah.
know what those people do. Like it's melting cheese or something like that. So that's neba neba.
Yeah. And this is very specific because this is the type of food that I love, and I really love like natto and okra and that mountain yam,
Yeah.
which is very slimy.
Oh, I don't.
And it's cool because they throw it all in. You don't like it, yeah. The texture is very slimy, but they throw it all into one thing and they call it neba neba.
Yeah.
And this is like a category of food that people like if they like that texture.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that slimy one. But that came to mind when you said nuru nuru. But this is for food. This is for a type of food that I love and I use a lot, actually. Neba neba. I like that.
Yeah. The next one we have is shaki shaki, not shaka shaka. Okay. Shaka shaka is commonly known in Japan because like restaurants like First Kitchen, they have shaka shaka potato, which you put the spices together with the French fries in a bag, you shake it up, and then the spices get distributed around the fries. And then you eat it because you can choose the flavor of the spice that you want to add to or the seasoning that you want to add to the fries. And that's shaka shaka because you shake it. Shaki shaki means crunchy, kind of like kari kari, but not. So in this case, you're talking about like vegetables. So like shaki shaki in a vegetable situation.
Celery.
Yeah. So like imagine like a salad. You're eating a salad and the salad is shaki shaki suru. I've only seen it like written down. I've never heard people actually say it. All these thoughts in my mind are gucha gucha.
Yeah. Oh man, we're really turning Japanese now.
That's it for today's episode. If you have any questions or any stories you'd like us to share, or any examples of onomatopoeia that we missed, or if you think we're wrong, leave us a comment or let us know. Until next time, excuse me, Masen, and see you.
Excuse me, Masen.
Soa soa for the next one.